Is this really the movie we were waiting for? Alright, well, Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Obviously, this is the movie where so many DC fans have been waiting for, to finally see Superman versus Batman dish it out on the big screen. The movie's taking place about 18 months after the events of Man of Steel, and what conveniently happens at the end of Man of Steel that we didn't see in that movie, oh wait, Bruce Wayne is there in Metropolis, witnessing all the destruction that we saw in Man of Steel, that we all thought, man, that's a lot of destruction. That really doesn't make sense if people really idolize Superman. But wait, one person doesn't idolize him. That happens to be the Batman. Boom, Batman vs. Superman. Isn't that crazy? Let's talk about some of the positives. Ben Affleck as Batman. I really liked him. And because this is the first time we're seeing an older Batman on screen, I thought they really did a good job of translating that Batman is a little bit older and probably a little bit more angsty, I guess, in his later years after seeing all the things that he's been through. We got some cameos, some little hints at some events that may have happened. He's not the same Batman from 20 years ago. Even in the fight choreography alone, you can see that he's just a tad slower, a little bit more reliant on gadgets, and which I also thought was a great element of this movie. They did a good job of balancing, mixing Batman using his martial arts as well with his gadgets. And also you can see Batman get knocked down a lot more than you've seen in some other movies, which I thought was interesting. It makes him seem, although he's still a badass because he gets out of it, it makes him seem just a tad more human, which is going to make the conflict between him and Superman near the end a lot more interesting. In the movie, he sure as hell uses the Gatling guns, he uses assault rifles, he uses submachine guns and pistols, and he's killing people. Die-hard Batman fans, you might be angry with that. What type of Batman are they trying to establish here? It seems like they're trying to go into the direction of Batman where he has seen some things and he doesn't care anymore. He's going to do what he needs to do to get the job done as fast and as efficiently as possible rather than having some big moral code like he used to. Or are you going to go with the more traditional Batman? Henry Cavill brought it as Superman once again. Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Great job. If I have to be completely honest about my favorite character in this movie, it's probably going to be Jeremy Irons as Alfred. There was just something about him. He brought something different to the character, but at the same time, it was still sort of the Alfred that we all know. And then comes to the part of the movie, or the casting of the movie, that it didn't live up to what I was hoping. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I was a huge advocate for Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I know a lot of people thought it was a weird, really miscast for the role. But I was like, wait, he's Jesse Eisenberg. He can't do any wrong. He's a fantastic actor. I mean, what can go wrong? Acting-wise, Jesse Eisenberg was good. He was passable. However, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, that's where we see some trouble. The entire time I was watching this movie, I kept saying, you know what? If you would just put a Riddler costume on him, boom, there you go. You have the Riddler. It just was not Lex Luthor. If you've seen a large majority of Jesse Eisenberg movies, you kind of know how he's going to act at this point. I really wish some of the early rumors of who Lex Luthor was going to be, you know, Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor, although he would have been a little old, he would have been fantastic. Or my personal choice, Joaquin Phoenix as Lex Luthor. I thought that would have been great. Who knows? He might be better in the next upcoming movies if Lex Luthor's in them. I don't know. You can never tell. One of my main gripes with this movie, something that just really it just made this movie fall apart. It had some horrendous, I mean horrendous pacing. For the first hour, maybe hour and a half of the movie, it's so painstakingly boring because there's just so many elements that are trying to work together to try to get to the same spot. But they do make sense and then they don't make sense, and it just feels like they're trying to get something going so they can set up the next movie. I absolutely hate it when a solitary movie is used solely for the fact or solely for the purpose of setting up another movie. If your movie can't stand alone on its own, sorry, it's a piece of crap. You had Superman's conflict, and then you had Batman's conflict, and then you had, out of nowhere, you have a Gal Gadot, that's Wonder Woman's conflict. And then you also have Lex Luthor's conflict, which was just so shoehorned into the movie. There was just too much happening at once, and it wasn't fleshed out enough in every aspect. And that leads us to the conflict. So it's called Batman versus Superman, but honestly, you don't see that until like the last 45 minutes of the movie. And this movie is 2.5 hours long. This is a long movie, and there's just so much stuff. So much stuff that could have been cut out of it. What this movie felt like was that they were trying to get all these elements into this movie to set up the the next series of DC films. DC is just really trying to play catch up with Marvel. Marvel has been setting up their universe since 2008 with Iron Man, and they've been coming out with their individual origin stories, and then their sequels, and then their trilogies, and they already have Avengers 1 and Avengers 2, and you got DC over here and it's like, hey, we did the Dark Knight trilogy. Although it's going to be great in the long run, because we're going to be seeing all these, individual, Aquaman movie, The Flash, Wonder Woman, Man of Steel 2, the standalone Batman movie, and so, and so on and so on. It makes this movie fall flat on its face, because it's kind of, there was some elements in the movie, the Dawn of Justice elements per se, where they kind of start hinting at the other members of the Justice League. They're really cool, but they're just so random in this movie. It literally is just a device to get you excited for the next movies. Rather than an integral part to the story. It's just kind of like, hey, we know that there's other members to this thing. We're going to show you some members of that thing, because they're going to be coming someday. A big gripe I had with the movie was that they just, oh man, they just had to have something to bring Superman and Batman together, and then eventually Wonder Woman, as you can see in the trailers, and let's just put Doomsday into the movie. Why not? Let's just put him in at the end and make them fight him. Oh wow, that should be a great time, shouldn't it? And yes, I have to admit, the CGI, the action sequences in this movie are great. Once you finally see Superman and Batman fight each other, it is awesome, and you are just, you're giddy. It's great. But then it's just like, hey guy, we gotta work together now because there's this big monster in the town. And if anybody knows anything about Doomsday, it's not that simple. You can't just fight Doomsday and call it a day. What? I just feel like they should have saved Doomsday for another film instead of just putting him into this movie to give them a reason to fight together. It also is extremely random as to why Wonder Woman decides to start fighting alongside Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Superman. It's just random. She doesn't really know these people. She's like, there's no pre-existing signs of her, her heroism that, I want to stand for something or anything like that. She's trying to look out for herself in the movie, and all of a sudden she's like, oh, there's a monster destroying Metropolis. I should probably go help. There was a lot of complaints about the destruction in Man of Steel and how there was just so much destruction, and how does it make sense for there to be this much destruction and to let people just let Superman get away with it and idolize him. And then there's even twice as much destruction in this movie. The main issue I had with this movie, other than the pacing, had to be that this movie really did not know what it was trying to be. They tried to make it dark, while also trying to have traditional comic book elements in it. And what it feels like is that Dawn of Justice does not know whether it's trying to be a comic book movie or a realistic superhero movie, if that makes sense. It just sucks because I really wanted to like this movie, and I went in with low expectations, and I think it met my expectations, which is sad because my expectations were low. Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice is a good time if you are a superhero fan, especially if you are a Batman or a big Superman fan. If you're a fan of either of those two people, you're going to see this movie regardless of all the reviews you're going to be watching or reading. I gotta say that the movie is a good foundation for whatever is to come, but as a standalone movie, it falls flat on its face. So I'm going to give I'm going to give Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice a solid 6 out of 10. So if you like this video, hit like. If you want to see any of my upcoming reviews or podcasts, just hit that subscribe button below. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.